Okay, let's continue where we left off last time. We're still going to be adding and subtracting rational expressions, but we're calling this part 2. And so let's get right to our first question here. So, what we can see here is that what makes this part 2 is the expressions within the pieces of the fraction here. We have these 4 things. Let's focus on the denominators right now. They are no longer monomials. They are binomials. And so on a problem like this, you have to realize that this binomial, it has to kind of stand by itself as a hunk of stuff that's 2 things, is completely different from this one. And the problem people have sometimes, they try to do too much stuff here. This is a thing, this is a thing. The common denominator is both of those things. So it would be 5n minus 4 n minus 6 minus 5n minus 4 n minus 6. Here comes our numerators now. It's the same concept. I have these 2 things, and so think of it like if this was a 2 and this was a 3, then the common denominator would be 6. It would be the 2 and the 3 combined to make 6 down here. But since it's this thing and this thing, then the common denominator is those 2 things together. And then we just do what we've been doing. We look at this and we see what we had to do here to create the common denominator, and we need this n minus 6 here. So we're multiplying n minus 6 and n minus 6 here. And so our new numerator here is n minus 6 n plus 5. And over on this side, we had the n minus 6, but we don't have the 5n minus 4 here. So to go from here to here, we need to put a 5n minus 4 right there. So we do that, but we can't add that in there. We can't multiply there unless we do the same thing to the numerator. So our new numerator is right there. Now, since these 2 denominators match, we can now combine the 2 numerators and put it over one denominator. So it's going to be n minus 6 n plus 5 minus 5n minus 4, all over 1 of the 5n minus 4 n minus 6. But we can't leave it like that, because we have this whole numerator now has a bunch of things that can be done. We can FOIL this, we can distribute here, and maybe combine some terms together. You never know what's going to happen. It might actually have some things cancel out. We don't know. But no matter what, we have to simplify the best we can. So if I FOIL the numerator, it's going to be n squared minus n minus 30. Going a little faster than I normally do. There's a lot of steps here. This is n squared. That's this one. Okay. Then we had 5n minus 6n is negative 1n, which is right there. I'm just combining it mentally instead of having to write this all out again. And then negative 6 times positive 5 is negative 30. And then we have, over here, we have negative 25n plus 20. All over, and I don't, right here, I don't care if you're too lazy here. Just go ahead and, that's fine. My little quotation marks. When we're all done, I'm gonna rewrite the denominator. But right now, we're just focusing on this part now to clean it up. We know this is our denominator. I think I need to. We're gonna run out of room here, so let me continue on another page. So now we're going to keep working with this numerator. We can't do a ton here, but we can combine, we have a negative n and a negative 25n that can combine, and we have a negative 30 and a positive 20. So it's going to be n squared minus 26n minus 10. And it's all over that same denominator we had, which was 5n minus 4 n minus 6. That's going to be it on this problem, and the reason it's going to be it is because clearly this doesn't factor. Sometimes, but I don't think usually in this assignment you're going to see this, but sometimes this may factor, and if this factors, you may end up being able, once you write this as two things, you might be able to cross something out, somehow or whatever. But in this case, there's nothing that's going to multiply to 10 that's going to make 26. So we are done with that problem. Let's do another one. Okay, pretty much the same thing. I'm going to do 3 examples today. This is the second one. The third one I think is a little bit longer, but they're all kind of the same. It's getting the idea. The trick to these problems is knowing what the common denominator is. People want to try to do too many things. This is r plus 6. This is an r plus 1. This is a 3. They're all different things. So the common denominator is all that stuff. So we're going to write common denominator 3 r plus 6 r plus 1. That's going to be the common denominator for these two fractions. The first fraction is missing the 3 and the r plus 1. So it's going to be 3 times the 5 that was already there times r plus 1. And then the second fraction over here is missing this r plus 6 in there. This is all multiplication, multiplication, multiplication. So the order in which I'm writing these doesn't matter. It was 5 because it was already there. And then it was a 3 because this didn't have a 3, but yet I have it down there in denominator. And it was an r plus 1 because I didn't have the r plus 1 here, but I need it as a common denominator. And then the same thing on the other side. It's going to be, we're missing the r plus 6. So there was already a 5r, and now we need to put an r plus 6 in there. Because we had this here. The common denominator is this, and this one is compared to this one has an r plus 6. So we would need to multiply the top and the bottom by r plus 6. But I'm kind of doing that a little fancier this time. You notice I'm not writing r plus 6 like this. I'm trying to make it a little more enjoyable for you guys so you're not having to write too much stuff. Next step, let's combine the numerators together. It's going to be, you might as well write 15. It's going to be 15r plus 1 plus 5r r plus 6 all over one denominator of 3 r plus 6 r plus 1. Next step, distribute. So we have 15r plus 15 plus 5r squared plus 30r. It's kind of starting to look like a little V right there, but I'm going to fix it. That's supposed to be r. All over 3 r plus 6 r plus 1. And then I'm going to try to fit this in here on the bottom of the screen. Maybe. I hope so. We'll see. Final answer is going to be 5r squared. Then we have 45r plus 15 all over 3 r plus 6 r plus 1. I hope you guys can see that at the bottom, because that's pretty much it. These problems don't end pretty, but we did do something here. Let's remind ourselves what happened. We started with two fractions that needed to be added together, and we ended with one fraction. There's only one fraction bar here. There's one common denominator. between those two things. Other than that, that's about it. Let's do one more. So what makes this one a little bit different is, in order to see the true common denominator, you're going to need to factor. So this right here, there's a 3n that's common to both, and that should help us to where, this kind of looks sort of like this. So we don't want to have too much of a denominator if we don't need it. So it's going to be, I'm just going to do a step right now where I go 5n over 3n n plus 3 minus 6n over 3 parentheses n plus 1. There's not as much there that's common as we would have liked. We have an n plus 1, which is unique. We have an n plus 3, which is unique. The 3 is in both, so we don't have to count that twice. That'll be just one time. But we also have this n sitting here too. Our common denominator is going to be 3n, n plus 3, n plus 1. That is the common denominator. I'm going to write it twice. And then we need to figure out what the numerators are. The way we figure out the numerators, we look at this, we look at this, we figure out what is missing from this that we had to put in here. And in this case, you can see it's the n plus 1. So the numerator needs to get multiplied by n plus 1. Then we come over here, we see this, we see this. We do not have the n plus 3 up here, and we don't have this n up here. We have the 3, we have the n plus 1, but this stuff right here, we added that. We didn't add, we multiplied this compared to what it used to be. So we're going to have to multiply the top by the same thing. So we're going to have 6n times n plus 3. Then we end up with, let's see, how do we want to do this? We're just going to write it 5n, n plus 1, getting a little messy here, hold on. 5n, n plus 1, minus 6n squared, n plus 3, all over 3n, n plus 3, n plus 1. So we're down to the one fraction, but now we need to clean up the numerator. We'll get 5n squared plus 5n minus 6n cubed minus 18n squared all over 3n, n plus 3, n plus 1. The only thing really left to do on this one is I see that we have an n squared here and an n squared over here. This is cubed, this is just n. Well, we might be able to do a couple things. I'm going to give myself some room on another slide. Actually, let's be a little more fancy this time. I'm going to take this thing and just kind of shrink it up over here in the corner, just so I can still be looking at it. And I'm going to write, it's going to be negative 6n cubed minus 13n squared plus 5n all over the common denominator. And then that, it kind of looks like it could be done, but there's one thing I know we can do for sure, and there's an n in the numerator that's in all three things. If I factor that to the front, then it'll cross out with this n right here. So I'm going to write n, parenthesis, negative 6n squared minus 13n plus 5 all over 3n n plus 3 n plus 1. And then from there, I know that I can cross out these two n's like that. And so, final answer, negative 6n squared minus 13n plus 5 all over 3n plus 3 n plus 1. Good enough for me. The main thing here is that, once again, we started with two fractions, we ended with one fraction. They look nasty. It really doesn't look like we did anything better, but we turned two fractions into one fraction. I'm most focused on that. I'm focused on that you had the common denominators right, so that you could combine those things. If you need to rewatch any of this, pause it, think about it, take your time on this one. This could be a little trickier for some of you than some of the other lessons we've done recently. We'll do some more in class. I'll try to add in a little bit more when we come in, but hopefully you come in with the basic idea of what's happening. So good luck with the homework tomorrow in class. Work hard. Be nice. See you soon.